Hey everybody, it's Caitlin. Welcome back to CoronaChat. Tonight is Saturday, April 4th, and I wanted to talk a little bit about some of the different treatments that are out there, or possible treatments that are out there for coronavirus in the Solidarity trial. So there's a lot of reports circulating right now about possible treatments for COVID-19. Just to be clear, right now there is no proven treatment for COVID-19, just like there's no vaccines, but hospitals are starting to experiment with drugs that they think might work. And as hospitals test these drugs, they're publishing their results very rapidly in an attempt to help researchers and other hospitals figure out what might work and what are kind of promising options to explore. So far, none of these reports have the kind of data in them that allow us to know whether the drugs actually work or not to help people get better, or if it's just people's own immune systems that are fighting back the virus without the drugs. So we need more evidence to know what we should be recommending to actually help people get better. Based on these initial promising results from hospitals, the World Health Organization has launched a new clinical trial called the Solidarity trial to test out options that seem the most promising so far. Any country that wants to can participate, and as of March 27th, 70 countries had already enrolled their hospitals in the trial, and more were in the process of completing enrollment. Running one giant clinical trial like this instead of lots of little ones will help mean that we can get results faster, because all the data are collected in the same way, which means they can be pooled and analyzed together. So it's important to note that this trial is for people who are already sick. And in participating hospitals, people sick with COVID-19 will have the option to be enrolled in the trial, which means they'll randomly be assigned to either get the best possible standard of care or get the best possible standard of care plus an experimental drug. All of these experimental treatments are drugs that are already approved for other things, and the idea being that if one of them works, we should be able to source it more quickly than if we had something brand new that needed to be manufactured and kind of get through all of the regulatory hoops. 4 drugs in this trial are remdesivir, combined lopinavir and ritonavir, interferon beta 1A, and chloroquine or hydroxychloroquine. So let's go through them one at a time. Remdesivir is an antiviral drug that was previously used as an experimental treatment for Ebola. There are some studies that show that remdesivir might be effective against MERS and SARS, which are both coronaviruses, in animal studies, and this is why we think that this drug might work in treating COVID-19. The combination of lopinavir and ritonavir is used right now to treat HIV. We think they might work against COVID-19 because they're antiviral medications, but we don't have any evidence, not even animal studies, to support this. Interferon beta 1A is a drug that's used to treat multiple sclerosis. Interferon beta is also a protein that our bodies produce naturally to help regulate our immune systems. Coronaviruses generally reduce our body's ability to produce interferon beta, so we think that upping those levels in our body might help. There's also some evidence that interferon beta 1A specifically helped cells to fight off the SARS virus when grown in petri dishes. But we don't yet know if this will have an effect in real-life human beings or if it has any effect against the virus that causes COVID-19. Okay, the last one is chloroquine or hydroxychloroquine. These 2 drugs are very similar, and they're currently used to treat malaria and rheumatology conditions like lupus, respectively. The drugs were tried in China and France, but the studies aren't big enough or robust enough to determine whether the drugs actually did anything or whether patients just got better by themselves. So one thing that's worth noting about the French study in particular is that about 25% of the patients who were initially enrolled and given hydroxychloroquine became sick enough that they were transferred to the ICU of a different hospital and taken off of the experimental treatment. The remaining patients didn't develop symptoms that were grave enough to require intensive care, so that might be because the drug helped them, and it might not. Remember that without any experimental treatment, it seems like about 20% of people who get COVID-19 become sick enough to require intensive care on a ventilator. So we can't tell right now if this 20% versus 25% means anything because the French study was so small, and we can't tell if the people who were enrolled in it were different than the general population. This is why we need a bigger, more rigorous trial to know whether this drug works or not. Okay, last thing, this is really important. All of these drugs are being tested as experimental treatments for COVID-19, not vaccines, not prevention. Like any drug, all of these can have side effects, and if you're healthy, these drugs can make you really sick. So recently a couple tried to self-medicate with chloroquine phosphate that they had at home for treating parasites in their pet fish. The man ended up dying, and the woman is in intensive care because these these products are toxic if not used correctly. So please, 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 please don't try this at home. Hope this was helpful, and looking forward to seeing you all tomorrow. As always, drop your questions and comments below, and we'll see you tomorrow on CoronaChat.